This is take 3 of Marc Ginsburg's political viral video. Well, perhaps the other ones weren't all that good. I actually lost the last one in the trash. So anyway. Oh my God. I'm trying to talk without having written a thing first. I'm having so much trouble with this for some reason. Maybe it's because I'm doubting myself. What I wanted to talk about is the battle between good and evil, because that is how it makes everything in life and politics as clear as possible to me. Basically, I believe that the Democratic way is good and the Republican way is evil. Good means anything that supports and enhances life and the happiness of human beings. Evil is that which destroys happiness and brings suffering to people. The reason I call the Republicans evil, or the Republican way of doing things evil, is because it's founded on dividing people, keeping people unequal, which is completely the opposite of the founding ideal of the United States of America. And it also emphasizes selfishness and intimidation. And we saw a great example of that today in the hearings regarding the alleged sexual assault case of Brett Kavanaugh and the woman, Dr. I forgot her first name, but the last name is Blasey Ford. She seemed very meek and humble. A person who wanted to cooperate as best as she could. And she seemed very shaken up and scared to testify. When Mr. Kavanaugh was given the same chance to testify himself, he appeared very angry, very bombastic. He actually seemed to me like somebody who was guilty of a crime and knew he'd been caught. His denial seemed a lot more emotional than simply a simple denial. He seemed outraged that anybody should even suggest he committed an act of evil. I've been around people a long time. Most of you were probably fooled by his act. And in the end, probably didn't know what to believe. I think what we saw was a clear example of how people who are favored by the system really do get a free pass. Just earlier this week, we saw a black man by the name of Bill Cosby, who had once enjoyed the admiration and adulation of far more people than Brett Kavanaugh has ever enjoyed, with his good reputation. We saw that man get sentenced to prison. This man is just being debated for a Supreme Court nomination. A woman accused him of severe sexual assault. It's true that in the Cosby case, it took a long time for that woman to get the justice that she felt she needed. In this case, it looked clear that the Republicans, being such evil people, made every single attempt they could to block the access to any further information about this case. They attempted to shut out the Democrats, give them very little time to talk. And it was clear that they were doing everything in their power to prevent any further investigation of the matter. This is a criminal issue, and yet it's being treated by the Republicans as though it's just like somebody had the nerve to make a false accusation because this is one of the good guys. This is a man with power who's been unfairly protected. I say unfairly because he's not getting the same justice that other people with similar accusations have gotten. I've seen many people lose their jobs over mere accusations, and nobody really cared or said anything. To the Republicans, it's a big deal because they see that their chances of keeping a majority in the midterms is very slim. And therefore, they need to make this man look like he's been unfairly accused of something that he never did. But I heard far more than just the words that were said. I looked at the way Dr. de Blasio Ford testified, and I looked at the way he testified, and he just seemed like one of the many bullies that really, really sickened me when I was going to college. I remember those people, and I remember how I allowed them to make me feel so inferior and intimidated. Clearly, he's not somebody with a lot of social graces like some of those bullies had, but the one thing he's got in common is a lot of arrogance, a feeling of entitlement, and a selfishness, because when he testified, he didn't care how other people felt. It was all about him. That was clear. Nobody pointed that out, and that's why I'm pointing that out now. But in seeing the contrast between these two people, we're really able to see what the battle of good and evil is all about. And what's really stark and what's really historical for this time is that finally the issue of sexual assault has been put on the table in a way that it never has been up to this point. And we're seeing it scrutinized. And we're seeing how all too much men feel they're entitled to force themselves on women with impunity. And this absolutely has to change. And I think enough people are feeling that now that things are going to change. But we really have to throw off this government, because this government is falling way behind the movement of the American people in these times. Unfortunately, the government reflects years back, and things are changing so fast that the government is just way out of step with the American people. Plus, it's been manipulated and gerrymandered such that the majority of the American people aren't even being represented by this government. People are being voter suppressed and disenrolled, and that has to stop. Without full participation in elections, without counting the popular vote and doing away with the Electoral College, we'll always have a very undemocratic government, and this has to end. And it may take a little bit of a revolutionary fervor to change things, because passivity is only going to enable the rich and powerful to continue sucking the lifeblood out of us, which they've been doing quite well for the past 50 years, ever since Ronald Reagan said government is the problem. Government is not the problem. Government is the one instrument we have as a democratic Republican people, and by Republican I don't mean Republican with a capital R, I mean as a democratic republic, as a people's republic. It is our right to have a government that represents us. Once we begin to feel the government is against us, then we have to look at ourselves and say, well, what did we do to get the government we want? It's easy to point the finger and blame others, but now's the time to get out, to register to vote, and to vote Democratic in every election. And to those of you who really believe in Trump, you need to wake up. You have been fooled. Many of you are very conservative for various different reasons, but the reality is the Republican Party is run by very wealthy billionaires who care only about themselves and nothing about you. And you're having your money stolen from them, and you're being lied to and told it's the Mexicans, it's the terrorists. Who else do they say? There's like another entity that they say is responsible for your suffering. No. You have to wake up, and you have to see that the very people you like are your worst enemies. You have to change. You have to join the Democratic Party, because they're the people who are fighting for you, not the Republicans. The Republicans care only about their masters. They're mercenaries, these politicians. They're just in it for the money. And those are the lowest kind of people. One of the great things about billionaires who run corporations that say we have to worry about the bottom line is that they call it the bottom line, because money and profits really are the bottom line. As human beings, we're so much better than that. We don't need to focus on the monetary aspect of everything. We need to find humanistic leaders and elect them to our government. This is our government. This is what the founders of this nation fought hard for a country in which everyone is treated with the equality that they were created with, and that nobody, because of their race or gender or sexual orientation or anything about them that's different, is treated differently. And that's what we have to stand up for, and that's what we have to protect. So please register and please vote Democratic. And as far as being progressive, let me tell you, the most progressive thing you can do in an election is vote against the most conservative, negative person. And to do that, you have to vote for whoever the Democrat is, even if they're not progressive enough for you. We don't need to divide good people. Good people need to unite and stand together and to work with each of their strengths, because everybody's got their strengths. I'm going to sign off for now. I think at this point, anything more I can do is going to be writing. Plus, I've probably already lost your attention span. But I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm going to keep coming up with something that's good. So you be well, and remember, we have to vote Democratic. We have to turn many, 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 many people, many more people out to the polls. If you're hearing this, please do that. Thank you. Okay. All right. Stop.